The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep rumble that echoed through the vast space. Jake Morrison walked through them alone, his black diplomatic uniform sharp against the colorful alien forms that filled the circular room. 12 different species had gathered for this emergency session, and every single one of them wanted humanity gone. Jake had been Earth's ambassador for 8 years now. He had seen anger before, but nothing like this. The air itself seemed to buzz with hostility as hundreds of alien eyes turned toward him. Some glowed with inner light, others were compound-like insects, and a few belonged to beings that barely looked solid at all. The human podium sat in the center of the chamber, surrounded by towering seats that rose up like stadium bleachers. Jake walked to it slowly, his boots clicking on the polished stone floor. He could feel the weight of their stares, the judgment in their alien minds. They had already decided what they thought of humanity. Chancellor Vextar rose from his crystalline seat high above. The Zephyrian was tall and thin, with 4 golden eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his elongated face. His skin shifted colors like oil on water, currently showing deep reds and purples that Jake knew meant anger and disgust. Human Morrison, Vextar's voice boomed through the chamber's translation systems. You stand accused of violating the Outer Rim Accords. Your species has illegally established mining colonies on 3 contested worlds. How do you answer these charges? Jake looked up at the Chancellor, his face calm. He had expected this. Earth's intelligence networks had been tracking the growing anger among the Council members for months. The 3 worlds in question were barely habitable rocks that nobody else wanted until human miners found rare minerals there. Chancellor Vextar, Jake replied, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The worlds you speak of were unclaimed when our colonists arrived. We followed all proper procedures and filed the appropriate claims with the Colonial Registry Office. A harsh clicking sound filled the air. Click-Thara, the hegemony representative, rose from her section. The insectoid creature stood nearly 3 meters tall, her 4 arms gesturing wildly as she spoke. Typical mammalian lies. She clicked through her translator. These worlds were marked for future development by the hegemony. Your species shows the same greed that drove you to strip your own planet bare before reaching the stars. More voices joined in. The ethereal collective's representative, a being of shifting energy named Morden, spoke in harmonious tones that somehow managed to sound condescending. Humanity has shown a disturbing pattern of aggressive expansion since joining the galactic community. Your species takes what it wants without regard for established order. Jake listened to them all. One by one, the alien species voiced their complaints. Humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too willing to fight when they should negotiate. They expanded too fast, claimed too much territory, asked too many questions about things that were none of their business. The Draknari delegate, a reptilian creature named Seth, hissed his accusations. Your military vessels patrol borders with weapons powered and shields raised. This is not the behavior of a peaceful species seeking cooperation. Your traders ask too many questions about our technology, added the Vorthon representative, whose bubble-like form rippled with each word. They probe for weaknesses in our defenses under the guise of commerce. Jake kept his expression neutral, but inside he was taking notes. Every complaint told him something about how the aliens saw humanity, and more importantly, what they feared. They were afraid of human curiosity, human adaptability, and human refusal to simply accept the way things had always been done. The accusations continued for over an hour. By the time the last delegate finished speaking, Jake had a clear picture of the situation. This wasn't really about 3 mining colonies on worthless rocks. This was about fear. Fear that humanity would disrupt the comfortable balance of power that these species had maintained for centuries. Finally, Chancellor Vextar called for silence. The chamber fell quiet, and Jake could hear the subtle hum of the life support systems that kept the diverse alien species alive in the same atmosphere. The Council has heard the evidence, Vextar announced. Humanity stands accused of aggressive expansion, violation of established territories, and disruption of galactic peace. The sentence is clear. Morden's energy form brightened as it spoke. Humanity will withdraw from all disputed territories within 30 standard days. Your military forces will return to the borders established in the original contact accords. Your expansion into unclaimed space will cease immediately. The ethereal being paused, letting the words sink in. If humanity refuses to comply with these demands, The Galactic Alliance will have no choice but to use military force to restore order to the galaxy. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Galactic Alliance was a military pact between most of the major species in the Council. If they united against humanity, Earth's small fleet wouldn't stand a chance. At least that's what the aliens believed. The chamber remained silent as every alien eye focused on Jake. They expected him to protest, to beg for more time, to offer compromises. They expected humanity to back down like a frightened animal when faced with superior force. Instead, Jake Morrison stepped forward. His voice was calm and measured, but something in his tone made several aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Members of the Council," he began, "I want to make sure I understand your position correctly. You're demanding that humanity abandon legally claimed territories and accept restrictions on our expansion into unclaimed space. And if we refuse, you plan to use military force against us." "That is correct," Vextar replied, his skin showing confident blues and greens. Jake nodded slowly. "Then let me be equally clear about humanity's position. We have always preferred peace to war. We came to the stars hoping to find friends and allies among the species that had already achieved interstellar travel. We've tried to follow your rules, respect your customs, and find our place in the galactic community." He paused, letting his words echo through the chamber. "But if you mistake our desire for peace as weakness, if you think our respect for life makes us easy targets, then you're about to learn something important about the species you're threatening." Jake's voice hardened slightly. "Throughout our history, those who forced humanity into war discovered that we're very good at it. Better than they ever imagined possible." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several aliens rose from their seats shouting about human arrogance and threats. But Jake simply stood there waiting for the noise to die down. When silence returned, he spoke one final time. "You have 30 days to reconsider your demands. I suggest you use that time wisely, because once this path is chosen, there's no going back." With that, Ambassador Jake Morrison turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a room full of aliens who had no idea what they had just set in motion. The secure conference room deep beneath the White House buzzed with tension. President Lisa Carter sat at the head of the table, her face grave as she reviewed the reports spread before her. Around the table sat the most powerful people in human space: military leaders, intelligence chiefs, and scientific advisors who would help decide humanity's fate. "Give me the numbers." "Pete," President Carter said to the man across from her. Admiral Pete Harrison was 63 years old and had spent most of his career preparing for a war he hoped would never come. His weathered face showed the strain of the past week as he activated the holographic display above the table. "It's not good, Madam President," Harrison began. "Our intelligence networks report massive fleet buildups along every major border. The aliens are pulling ships from across the galaxy. Current estimates show they're assembling over 3,000 combat vessels." General Amy Brooks, head of the Colonial Defense Force, leaned forward. "Our total fleet strength is 412 ships. Even if we recall every vessel from patrol duties and research missions, we're outnumbered almost 8-1. Dr. Ben Taylor, the President's chief science advisor, cleared his throat. "The numerical disadvantage is only part of the problem. Our analysis shows this has been planned for years, possibly decades." He activated his own display, showing trade agreements and technology exchange records. "Look at these patterns. Every major technology sharing agreement has included clauses that specifically limit human access to advanced weapon systems. Our trade partnerships have been structured to keep us dependent on alien manufacturing for key components." "They've been setting us up," President Carter said quietly. "Exactly," Dr. Taylor replied. "While we focused on building our economy and expanding our colonies, they've been systematically isolating us technologically. The other species have been sharing military innovations among themselves while keeping us in the dark." Admiral Harrison brought up another display, showing alien fleet movements. "The coordination is impressive. 12 different species, each with their own military doctrines and command structures. And they're moving like a single unified force. This level of planning doesn't happen overnight." President Carter stood and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of Washington stretched into the distance, but she was thinking about the colonies scattered across dozens of star systems. Millions of human civilians who had no idea their lives were about to change forever. "What about Operation Sleeping Giant?" she asked without turning around. The room fell silent. Operation Sleeping Giant was a contingency plan that had been developed in the early days of human expansion. It was based on a simple principle. If humanity was ever faced with an existential threat, every human colony, every trading post, every seemingly innocent research station would reveal its true purpose. All assets are in place, General Brooks replied carefully. Every colony has been built with hidden defensive systems. Mining stations have concealed weapons platforms. Even our agricultural worlds have underground bunker networks and hidden supply depots. Dr. Taylor added, the technology gap isn't as wide as they think it is. We've been very careful about what innovations we've shared with the galactic community. Our real military capabilities have been classified at levels that most of our own people don't know about them. President Carter turned back to the table. Activate Sleeping Giant, full authorization, all protocols. The orders went out within the hour. Across human space, seemingly peaceful colonies began revealing their true nature. Captain Roy Chen, commanding the stealth ship UHS Shadow, received new orders that sent his vessel deep into alien territory. His mission was simple: gather intelligence on enemy fleet positions and report back through quantum communication channels that the aliens didn't even know existed. Commander Kate Williams led a team of specialists who had been posing as traders and diplomats throughout the galaxy. Her people began activating sleeper agents and sabotage systems that had been placed near key alien installations over the past decade. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison found himself summoned back to the Galactic Council for what the aliens claimed would be a final negotiation session. The chamber was even more crowded than before, with military advisors standing behind each delegate's seat. Chancellor Vexitar's skin showed confident blues and golds as he addressed the human ambassador. Morrison, your president has had a week to consider our generous offer. Surely she understands that resistance is pointless. The deadlines has been reduced, announced Counselor Morden, its energy form pulsing with what Jake had learned to recognize as smug satisfaction. Your species now has 7 days to comply with all demands. This is our final gesture of mercy. Jake had come prepared for this. Intelligence reports from Captain Chen and other sources had revealed the true scope of the alien buildup. They weren't just planning to force humanity out of the disputed territories. They were planning to break human power permanently, reducing Earth to a client state dependent on alien goodwill. I see, Jake replied calmly. And if we refuse? Clicthara's mandibles clicked excitedly. Then your species will learn what happens to those who disrupt galactic order. The combined fleets of the Alliance will sweep your pathetic colonies from space. Your people will beg for the mercy they could have had today, added Seth, his reptilian eyes gleaming with anticipated violence. Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out a data tablet. Before you finalize that decision, I think you should see this. The tablet projected a holographic display showing shipping records, communication logs, and military movement orders. The evidence was overwhelming. The aliens had been planning this confrontation for years, systematically weakening humanity's position while building up their own forces. We know about the conspiracy, Jake said quietly. We know about the modified trade agreements, the shared technology programs that excluded humans, and the secret military coordination protocols. You've been planning this war since the day we made contact. Vextar's skin flickered through several colors before settling on an angry red. These allegations are baseless. The galactic community has always treated humanity fairly. Even if your claims were true, Morden interjected, it changes nothing. Your species is outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and accept client state status or be destroyed. Jake looked around the chamber at the alien faces staring down at him. Some showed anticipation. Others showed what might have been pity for the doomed humans. None of them showed doubt about the outcome of the coming war. You know what the interesting thing is? Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Throughout human history, our greatest victories have come when we were outnumbered and outgunned. When everything seemed hopeless, when surrender seemed like the only rational choice, that's when humanity became most dangerous. He closed the data tablet and put it away. You want to know what separates humans from every other species in this chamber? Every one of you achieved interstellar travel through gradual development over thousands of years. You had time to become civilized, to develop peaceful societies, to forget what it means to fight for survival. Jake's voice hardened. Humans reached the stars in less than a century from our first powered flight. We did it while fighting 2 world wars, surviving a nuclear standoff that nearly destroyed our planet, and competing with each other every step of the way. We never forgot how to fight because we never had the luxury of peace. The chamber was completely silent now. You've made your choice, Jake continued. You've decided that humanity needs to be taught its place in your galactic order. But you should understand something before your fleets cross into human space. He paused, meeting the eyes of every major delegate. We didn't want this war. We hoped we could find our place in the galaxy through cooperation and mutual respect. But since you've decided that's not possible, you're about to discover why every predator species on Earth learned to fear humans. You're about to learn what happens when you threaten our families, our homes, and our future. Jake Morrison walked out of the chamber for the last time, leaving behind a room full of aliens who believed they had already won. The alien armada stretched across space like a metal constellation. 3,000 warships from 12 different species had gathered at the edge of human territory, their combined firepower enough to sterilize entire star systems. Chancellor Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the final preparations with satisfaction. Status report, he commanded, his 4 golden eyes reflecting the glow of tactical displays. All fleets report ready for advance. Chancellor, replied his tactical officer, the humans have positioned their pathetic fleet to defend their core systems. Intelligence reports show only 400 vessels total. Vextar's skin showed pleased greens and blues. The human response was exactly what the Alliance had predicted. A desperate last stand around their most important worlds, sacrificing the outer colonies to buy time that wouldn't help them anyway. Begin the advance, he ordered. We'll sweep aside their outer defenses and force them to surrender before we reach their home systems. The great fleet moved forward, crossing into human space with the confidence of overwhelming superiority. The first targets were asteroid mining stations in the Kepler system, supposedly defenseless civilian installations that should fall within hours. The first surprise came when the asteroids started shooting back. Commander Paul Davis had been waiting for this moment for 5 years. His converted mining ship, the UHS Digger, looked like nothing more than an industrial vessel designed to crack open rocks and extract ore. The aliens saw exactly what they expected to see, a civilian ship that should have fled or surrendered immediately. Instead, Davis opened fire with weapons that shouldn't have existed on a mining vessel. The Digger's mining lasers were far more powerful than any civilian equipment had a right to be. They cut through the lead alien destroyer's shields like they weren't there, carving deep gouges in its hull. The ship's ore processing bays opened to reveal missile launchers that sent a barrage of fusion warheads into the enemy formation. This is Kepler Defense Command to all civilian vessels. Davis broadcast on open channels, knowing the aliens were listening. You are cleared to engage targets of opportunity. Across the asteroid field, dozens of mining ships revealed their true nature. Dr. Susan Mills had spent 20 years designing this moment. Every human colony, every mining station, every research outpost had been built with hidden capabilities that the aliens had never suspected. The mining stations weren't just disguised warships, they were mobile fortresses. Massive engines hidden within the asteroid hulks allowed them to move and maneuver like ships a tenth their size. Weapon systems that the aliens had been told were mineral extraction tools proved to be military-grade equipment capable of punching through heavy armor. The alien vanguard, expecting an easy victory over helpless civilians, found themselves facing a coordinated defense that hit them from every direction. Ships that should have been fleeing were instead closing for combat, their supposedly civilian crews fighting with a ferocity that shocked the alien commanders. Admiral Pete Harrison watched the battle unfold from his command ship, the UHS Defiance, hidden behind the gas giant's largest moon. The Defiance looked like a standard human battleship, which was exactly the problem with alien intelligence gathering. They had studied human military vessels and thought they understood human capabilities. They had no idea what humans were really capable of. Signal from Captain Linda Hayes. Admiral, reported his communications officer. Newton Defense Grid is ready for activation. Harrison smiled grimly. The Newton Defense Grid was humanity's deepest secret. For 20 years, human engineering teams had been placing hidden orbital platforms around every major human world. The platforms were disguised as communication satellites, scientific instruments, and navigation beacons. The aliens had been looking at humanity's real defensive network for decades without realizing what it was. "Activate the grid," Harrison ordered. All platforms full power. Across human space, the grid came online. What the aliens had thought were harmless civilian satellites suddenly revealed themselves as heavily armed defense platforms. Each one carried enough firepower to engage a capital ship, and there were thousands of them positioned around every human world. The alien fleet advancing on the Sol system found their path blocked by a wall of fire that materialized from empty space. Weapons platforms that hadn't existed moments before began engaging targets with precision that spoke of years of planning and preparation. But the real shock came when the aliens encountered human ground forces. Colonel Steve Martinez had been born on Proxima Colony, one of the first worlds settled by humans outside the Sol system. He had grown up knowing that someday, something might come to threaten his home and his family. When that day finally arrived, he was ready. The Zephyrian landing force that attacked Proxima Colony expected to face lightly armed civilians with basic weapons. Colonial militias were a joke compared to professional military forces, at least that's what their intelligence reports claimed. Instead, they encountered human soldiers equipped with weapons that bypassed every defensive system in the alien arsenal. Energy shields designed to stop plasma bolts were useless against solid projectiles fired from electromagnetic railguns. Personal armor that could deflect energy weapons crumpled under the impact of explosive rounds that detonated inside the target. "Fall back! Fall back!" screamed the Zephyrian ground commander, as his troops were systematically destroyed by humans using what the aliens considered primitive kinetic weapons. The humans fought with a tactical flexibility that no alien species could match, adapting their strategies in real time to exploit every weakness in alien equipment and doctrine. But it was the space battles that truly shocked the alien leadership. Captain Alex Thompson commanded one of humanity's new Berserker-class destroyers, ships that had been built in secret shipyards hidden throughout human space. The Berserker-class vessels were unlike anything in the alien databases. They sacrificed defensive systems for pure offensive capability, designed to inflict maximum damage before being destroyed. Thompson's ship, the UHS Fury, charged directly into the center of an alien formation. The ship's armor was already glowing from enemy fire, but Thompson kept his course steady. At the last moment, he fired everything: missiles, railguns, plasma cannons, and experimental weapons that the aliens had never seen before. The Fury died in the attack, but it took 3 alien capital ships with it. More importantly, it sent a message that rippled through the alien fleet. These humans were willing to trade their lives to destroy their enemies, and they had the weapons to make that trade profitable. The psychological impact on the alien forces was devastating. Species that had known only civilized warfare for centuries found themselves facing an enemy that fought with what they perceived as pure savagery. Human boarding parties led by Sergeant Maria Santos didn't just disable enemy ships. They hunted down the crews with weapons that belonged in a museum, using tactics that predated spaceflight. Commander Joe Brooks demonstrated humanity's greatest advantage in the battle for the Ross system. When alien shields proved resistant to standard human energy weapons, he didn't fall back or call for reinforcements. Instead, he organized field modifications that turned mining equipment into military hardware, created improvised weapons from civilian industrial tools, and coordinated with other human commanders to share solutions in real time. Within hours, human ships throughout the system were sporting hybrid weapon configurations that combined human ingenuity with captured alien technology. Every engagement taught the humans something new about their enemies, and that knowledge spread through the human fleet faster than the aliens could adapt to counter it. The tide of war shifted when humans began capturing alien vessels intact. Dr. Rachel Morgan, a physicist who had been studying alien technology since first contact, led teams of engineers who reverse-engineered captured equipment and improved upon it within days of acquisition. By the end of the first month of fighting, human ships were equipped with shield systems based on alien designs but powered by human fusion reactors that made them twice as effective as the originals. Human weapons incorporated alien targeting systems modified, with human fire control software that increased accuracy by orders of magnitude. The aliens had expected to face a primitive species with inferior technology and limited military experience. Instead, They found themselves fighting an enemy that learned from every encounter, adapted to every new threat, and improved their capabilities faster than seemed possible. Chancellor Vextar stared at the tactical display showing his fleet's positions after 4 weeks of combat. What should have been a quick conquest had become a grinding war of attrition, and the humans were winning. How is this possible? He demanded of his intelligence officers. They were supposed to be a minor species with limited military capabilities. His tactical advisor, a being whose skin had gone pale with stress, replied quietly, "Sir, we never understood what we were fighting. We thought humans were like us, a civilized species that had forgotten how to wage real war. We were wrong." On the display, another human fleet appeared from hyperspace. This one equipped with weapons that registered as completely unknown to alien sensors. The war was far from over, but one thing had become clear. Humanity had been the war that followed defied every prediction the Galactic Council had made about humanity. 3 months after the first shots were fired, the alien coalition found themselves fighting an enemy unlike anything they had encountered in their civilized history. Colonel Steve Martinez stood in the ruins of what had been the Hegemony Command Center on Titan Base. The alien fortress had been considered impregnable, layered energy shields, automated defense systems, and a garrison of elite Hegemony warriors who had never known defeat. It had fallen in 6 hours to a human assault force that used tactics the aliens couldn't understand. "Sir, we've secured the communications array," reported Lieutenant Dan Foster, his combat armor scorched but intact. "Intelligence teams are downloading their tactical databases now." Martinez nodded, surveying the destruction around him. The Hegemony had built their defenses to stop energy weapons and plasma charges. They had shields that could deflect particle beams and armor that could absorb directed energy attacks. What they hadn't prepared for were humans carrying what the aliens considered museum pieces, projectile weapons that fired solid metal at hypersonic speeds. "Pack everything up," Martinez ordered. "Command wants us to hit their supply depot on Europa within 12 hours. The speed of human operations shocked the alien leadership. While they held committee meetings and filed proper military reports through their chain of command, human forces struck targets across multiple systems simultaneously. Each victory taught them something new about alien weaknesses, and that knowledge spread through the human military network faster than the aliens could adapt. Captain Alex Thompson had survived the destruction of his first ship and now commanded the UHS Vengeance, a new Berserker-class destroyer that incorporated lessons learned from every engagement. The ship's design was brutal in its simplicity: thick armor, massive engines, and enough firepower to cripple vessels 3 times its size. "Target the Zephyrian flagship," Thompson ordered as his ship closed with the alien formation. "All weapons full spread." The Vengeance's attack was typical of human naval tactics that had evolved during the war. Instead of the long-range dueling that characterized alien warfare, humans closed to point-blank range and unleashed everything they had. Thompson's ship launched a barrage of missiles, followed by railgun rounds that punched through enemy shields, followed by the ship itself ramming into the alien vessel at full speed. Both ships died in the collision, but the psychological impact on the remaining alien fleet was devastating. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy willing to trade individual ships for tactical advantage. Their commanders were trained for civilized warfare where losses were minimized and victory achieved through superior technology and tactics. Humans fought as if every ship was expendable, every soldier prepared to die, every battle a chance to inflict maximum damage on the enemy. It was warfare reduced to its most basic element, the willingness to pay any price for victory. Sergeant Maria Santos exemplified the close-quarters combat that terrified alien ground forces. Her squad had boarded the Draknari cruiser through a breach blown in its hull by human explosives. While the alien crew tried to repel boarders with energy weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat, Santos and her team moved through the corridors with equipment that seemed primitive by galactic standards. Combat knives, explosive charges, projectile weapons, and sometimes just their bare hands. Humans fought with tools that most alien species hadn't used in thousands of years. But in the cramped confines of a starship, these weapons proved devastatingly effective against enemies who had forgotten what real violence looked like. Deck 7 secured, Santos reported as her team cleared the last alien resistance from the ship's engineering section. Explosive charges set, We'll have the reactor core in 30 seconds. The Draknari had expected boarding actions to involve civilized weapons and formal duels between professional soldiers. Instead, they found themselves hunted through their own ship by humans who fought like the predators their species had been before. Civilization taught them restraint, Commander. Joe Brooks had become a legend among human forces for his ability to adapt alien technology to human needs. His engineering teams could take captured equipment and modify it for human use within hours of acquisition. When alien point defense systems proved effective against human missiles, Brooks developed guided projectiles that looked like debris but carried explosive warheads. The trick, Brooks explained to his team as they worked on their latest project, is thinking like a human instead of like them. They build elegant solutions that work perfectly under ideal conditions. We build ugly solutions that work under any conditions. The weapon they were developing looked like a piece of scrap metal welded to an asteroid mining drill. In reality, it was a kinetic penetrator that could punch through alien armor and deliver a fusion warhead directly into enemy ships. It was crude, inelegant, and completely effective against defensive systems designed to stop sophisticated weapons. Human innovation during the war progressed at a pace that amazed both sides. Dr. Rachel Morgan's research teams reverse-engineered captured alien technology and improved upon it faster than the aliens could develop countermeasures. Every enemy ship that fell into human hands became a source of new capabilities. Look at this, Dr. Morgan told her team as they examined a captured ethereal weapon system. They focused on energy efficiency and elegant design. But if we strip out the safety systems and overload the power coupling, we can double the output. Won't that burn out the weapon after a few shots? Asked one of her engineers. Morgan smiled grimly. That's the point. We're not trying to build something that lasts forever. We're trying to build something that kills enemy ships before our ship dies. The human approach to warfare confused alien strategists who had been trained in military academies that emphasized preservation of resources and minimization of casualties. Human tactics seemed wasteful, even suicidal, until the results became clear. Ships that should have lost were winning through sheer aggressive determination. Captain Linda Hayes commanded the defense platform network that had grown around every major human world. What had started as a hidden defensive grid had evolved into mobile battle stations that could move between star systems and provide fire support for human fleets. Sir, alien reinforcements are jumping in, reported her tactical officer. Vorthon Battle Group, 12 heavy cruisers. Hayes studied the tactical display. Her platform had enough firepower to engage the enemy fleet, but conventional wisdom said she should wait for reinforcements. Human tactical doctrine disagreed. Launch all fighters, she ordered. Signal the mining ships to begin their attack run. We're going to hit them before they can deploy their full formation. The attack that followed demonstrated the integration of human forces that had developed during the war. Civilian mining ships provided long-range fire support with industrial lasers modified for combat. Fighter squadrons equipped with captured alien technology engaged enemy vessels at close range. The defense platform itself moved to engage the largest enemy ships with weapons that combined human and alien design principles. Within an hour, the Vorthon battle group was destroyed or in retreat, but the cost to human forces had been minimal. The aliens were learning that human defensive positions weren't just obstacles to overcome, they were traps designed to destroy entire enemy formations. HFY, psychological warfare aspect of the conflict became as important as the actual battles. Alien crews who had grown up believing in their technological and tactical superiority found themselves outfought by a species they had considered primitive. Morale in the alien fleets plummeted as reports of human victories spread through their communication networks. Major Kevin Price led psychological operations that broadcasted captured alien communications back to enemy fleets. The messages showed alien commanders pleading for reinforcements, reporting impossible human capabilities, and struggling to understand an enemy that didn't fight according to any known doctrine. The key, Price explained to his team, is showing them that their leaders don't understand what they're fighting either. Every time an alien commander admits he doesn't know how humans are doing something, their troops lose more confidence in their leadership. The broadcasts had exactly the intended effect. Alien forces began questioning orders, requesting transfers away from human territories, and in some cases simply refusing to engage human ships unless they had overwhelming numerical superiority. By the 4th month of the war, The strategic situation had changed completely. What the aliens had planned as a quick conquest had become a grinding conflict that was destroying their military capabilities faster than they could rebuild them. Human forces, meanwhile, seemed to grow stronger with every engagement. The final proof of humanity's transformation came during the Battle of Wolf 359, where Admiral Harrison deployed the entire human fleet in a coordinated assault on the alien staging area. The battle lasted 3 days and involved over 1,000 ships on each side. When the fighting ended, the alien coalition HE. 6 months after the war began, the Zephyrian homeworld of Vexthara had never seen enemy ships in its skies. For 1,000 years, the planet had been the heart of an empire that stretched across dozens of star systems. Its crystal cities rose like monuments to Zephyrian superiority, and its orbital shipyards had built the vessels that enforced peace throughout their region of space. Now Admiral Pete Harrison's fleet emerged from hyperspace above those same cities, and everything changed forever. The human battle group was smaller than the massive alien armadas that had started the war, but it moved with a confidence that spoke of hard-won experience. Every ship bore the scars of months of fighting, and every crew member had learned lessons that no military academy could teach. "Open a channel to the planetary government," Harrison ordered from the bridge of his flagship. The UHS Defiance had been rebuilt 3 times during the war, each iteration incorporating captured alien technology and hard-learned tactical improvements. The message that broadcast across Vexithara was simple and direct. "This is Admiral Harrison of the Human Defense Force. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally, or we will demonstrate why your species should have chosen peace instead of war." Chancellor Vextar received the message in his palace. Surrounded by advisors whose skin colors reflected panic and desperation, the great Zephyrian fleet that had seemed so powerful 6 months ago was scattered across a dozen systems, running from human forces that seemed to appear everywhere at once. "How many ships do they have?" Vextar demanded. "Our sensors show 47 vessels," replied his military advisor, whose usual confidence had been replaced by barely concealed terror. "But sir, these are not the same ships we faced at the beginning of the war. Our intelligence suggests they have incorporated technology from every species in the former coalition." Vextar's skin shifted through colors that showed confusion and fear. The humans had not just defeated the Galactic Alliance. They had learned from every encounter, adapted every piece of captured technology, and turned the coalition's own weapons against them. "Surely 47 ships cannot threaten an entire planet," Vextar said. Though his voice lacked conviction, his advisor activated a holographic display showing recent human military actions. "Sir, 3 days ago a single human squadron destroyed the Draknari fortress at Beta Centauri. Last week 2 human ships broke the siege of Kepler Station and captured an entire hegemony battle group. They are not fighting like any species we have encountered before." The truth was worse than either of them wanted to admit. Humanity had not just won individual battles. They had transformed the very nature of interstellar warfare. Species that had fought according to civilized rules for millennia found themselves facing an enemy that treated every engagement as a fight for survival. While the Zephyrian government debated their response, other human forces were achieving victories across the galaxy that had seemed impossible 6 months earlier. Captain Roy Chen's stealth ship had penetrated deep into ethereal collective space, mapping their defenses and coordinating with resistance movements on occupied human worlds. Commander Kate Williams led liberation forces that freed human colonies using tactics that combined military precision with guerrilla warfare. Her teams had spent months learning how to turn alien technology against its creators, and now they moved through enemy territory like ghosts, striking targets and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. But the most significant development was happening on Earth, where Ambassador Jake Morrison had spent the war coordinating with alien resistance groups that opposed their own government's aggression against humanity. The revelation that the war had been planned for decades had created political chaos in several alien civilizations. The opposition parties on 7 different worlds are demanding their governments withdraw from the coalition, Jake reported to President Carter during their daily briefing. The Vorthan Assembly has already voted to recall their fleet and negotiate separately with us. President Carter nodded, studying reports that showed the complete collapse of alien military coordination. "What's the status of the main fleet?" Harrison reports that Zephyrian space is effectively under human control. Their government has 24 hours to surrender, and intelligence suggests they're going to accept rather than see their homeworld bombarded. It was a remarkable transformation. The species that had been dismissed as aggressive primitives 6 months ago now controlled the strategic initiative across multiple systems. Human fleets operated with impunity in space that had been alien territory since before humans had developed written language. The surrender came exactly 23 hours and 57 minutes after Harrison's ultimatum. Chancellor Vextar himself transmitted the message, his skin showing the pale colors of defeat and submission. The Zephyrian Empire formally surrenders to human forces, he broadcast to both the human fleet and his own people. We request terms for a ceasefire and the opening of peace negotiations. But the real shock came 3 days later, when an emergency session of the Galactic Council was called. The same chamber where humanity had been issued an ultimatum 6 months earlier now hosted a very different kind of meeting. Jake Morrison walked through those massive doors again. But this time the atmosphere was completely different. The hostile alien faces had been replaced by expressions of fear, respect, and in some cases, desperate hope that humanity might be merciful in victory. The human podium remained in the center of the chamber, but now it was surrounded by delegates who leaned forward to catch every word, rather than glaring down in judgment. Members of the former Galactic Alliance, Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. 6 months ago, you gave humanity an ultimatum. You demanded that we withdraw from territories we had legally claimed, accept restrictions on our expansion, and submit to your authority or face military destruction. The chamber was completely silent. Several alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, remembering their confident predictions of easy victory over the primitive human species. You accused us of being too aggressive, too violent, too unpredictable for civilized galactic society. You said we needed to be taught our place in your established order. You said we would learn what happens to species that disrupt galactic peace. Jake paused, letting his words echo through the chamber. Well, you got exactly what you asked for. You wanted to see what humans do when we stop trying to be civilized. You wanted to test our military capabilities. You wanted to demonstrate your superiority over what you considered a minor species with primitive technology. Chancellor Vextar's skin showed colors that Jake had never seen before, deep purples and grays that seemed to indicate shame mixed with terror. The war you started has taught the galaxy several important lessons, Jake continued. First, humanity's preference for peace should never be mistaken for inability to wage war. Second, our respect for established order was a courtesy, not a weakness. Third, when you force a species to choose between submission and survival, you should be very certain you can win the war that follows. Counselor Morden's energy form flickered weakly as it tried to speak. Ambassador Morrison, surely reasonable terms can be negotiated. The coalition recognizes humanity's legitimate security concerns. Jake smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The coalition no longer exists. 7 species have already negotiated separate peace agreements with humanity. The others are free to surrender individually or continue fighting until their military capabilities are completely destroyed. He activated a holographic display showing the current strategic situation. Human forces controlled or threatened every major alien military installation. Their fleets operated freely in space that had been alien territory for centuries. Most importantly, human technology had evolved during the war to surpass anything the aliens possessed. The terms are simple, Jake announced. First, all species that participated in the unprovoked attack on humanity will pay reparations equal to 50% of their gross planetary product for the next decade. Second, humanity will receive permanent seats on an expanded galactic council with veto power over any decisions affecting human interests. Third, all territorial disputes will be resolved in humanity's favor. The alien delegates erupted in shocked voices, but Jake continued speaking over them. Fourth, technology sharing agreements will be renegotiated to give humanity access to all innovations developed by member species. Fifth, the new Galactic Defense Force will be under joint command, with humans holding senior positions proportional to our military contributions. These terms are impossible, protested Seth, his reptilian features showing distress. You are demanding the complete restructuring of galactic civilization. Jake nodded. Exactly. You wanted to restructure galactic civilization 6 months ago, when you thought you could force humanity into submission. The only difference is that we won the war you started. He looked around the chamber at the alien faces, staring at him in shock and growing understanding. But I want to be very clear about something. Humanity never wanted this war. We came to the stars hoping to find friends and allies among the species that had achieved interstellar travel before us. We tried to follow your rules, respect your customs, and find our place as junior partner.